Seattle is currently to the rock and roll world what Bethlehem was to Christianity. This is a statement from 1992 Spin Magazine's Year in Review issue. And as somebody who's from Seattle, from the scene, and a part of that time, I can say with a little bit of authority that it is 100% ridiculous and untrue. Seattle was actually way bigger than Bethlehem. We were like Mecca or something like that. No, this is ridiculous and it's even hyperbolic by today's standards. But what it does is it shows just how dramatically Seattle music from the 80s and 90s influenced pop culture and music around the world. It changed things. And it's a story pretty well told. It's the subject of documentaries and books. It's been a central character in TV and in feature films. It's shown in museums. It's even a style worn in fashion. You can go almost anywhere in the world today, talk to a local person, tell them you're from Seattle, and more than likely they will talk to you about music. It's an incredible legacy. And while the story is well told, there's a piece of it that's usually left behind that I want to share with you today and talk about why this is important now. Because in Seattle, this incredible music legacy happened despite what the city wanted. You might be familiar with the movie Footloose, the Hollywood blockbuster starring Kevin Bacon, the story of a young man who moves to a town where rock music and dancing have been banned. The story is loosely based on real stories that happened in a small religious conservative community in Oklahoma, but it could have just as easily been inspired by Seattle. Like the movie Footloose, this story takes place in the 80s. And to answer a question that maybe some of you have, no, I am not one of the people in this picture. I was never that cool. In fact, Seattle wasn't that cool. In fact, we wanted to distance ourselves from this kind of culture because in the 80s, Seattle wanted to be a world-class city. We talked about it all of the time. We'd see other big cities, and we wanted to be like them. And the bubbling music culture that was coming up interfered with the pursuit of that identity. But it wasn't just at the macro level. In the homes and in families, it was also a concern. So much so that parents made a coalition called Parents in Arms to end the musical seduction of their young people. They would work with journalists to have stories written that vilified music in clubs. Then they started shutting down clubs. Clubs like Scoochie's, Guerrilla Gardens, and the most notorious, the Monastery. But they didn't stop there. They then created laws to prevent new clubs from forming, like a poster ban that made it illegal to advertise shows on telephone poles, or the most impactful work, the Teen Dance Ordinance, that made it almost impossible for young people to go to concerts and to dance. Now, I want to remind you, we're still talking about Seattle and not a small town in Oklahoma. But like any great story, when there's a crusade, there's a resistance. And the youth who wanted to express themselves decided to fight back. They created their own group called the Youth Music Defense Campaign. And they were pretty successful too. So much so that they were able to get 5,000 signatures on a petition to overturn the Teen Dance Ordinance. And one day in February 1987, hundreds of them left classes, went down to City Hall, and demanded change. They almost got it, but they came up short. Enter Seattle's Kevin Bacon. This is Chris Novoselic, and you might know him as the bassist for the rock band Nirvana. Chris was frustrated by the way the city was reacting to the culture and music and spotlight he was bringing to Seattle, and he decided to do something about it. He used his power, his influence, and his celebrity to band together with the resistance and formed a political action committee, Jam PAC, Joint Artists Musicians PAC. This is 1994, decades before things like Citizens United, and they were effective too. So much so that they were able to change the narrative on music a bit and overturn both the poster ban and the Teen Dance Ordinance, a couple other things, and make tremendous change. But they didn't stop there. They decided to turn their attention to the people who made the laws to begin with. And over the course of a couple years, it all came down to a mayoral election. It was Greg Nichols, the progressive candidate who thought we should support our music identity, versus Mark Sidran, the city attorney who was actually the author of some of those stifling laws. It was a story, a classic story of good versus evil. And music became central in the debate and in the campaign. And on election night, it turned out to be one of the closest mayoral elections in Seattle history. But I'm happy to report that music won. Nichols overcame Sidran's 2-to-1 funding advantage and sheer monopoly on press endorsements. And whether it was true or not, it was largely written in the press that it was the music community and Jam Pack's push that got Nichols the votes he needed to win. And when Nichols got in, he made good on his promise. Not only did we stop distancing ourselves from the music identity, we literally trademarked it as the city of music in advertising, promotional materials. Rather than shutting down youth music venues, the city opened up its own in the Vera Project that can be seen at Seattle Center today. And so many other things, including one of my favorite outcomes, which is when the SeaTac Airport decided to have live music throughout all the concourse and have the security announcements done by local musicians. My favorite one goes like this. This is Jerry Cantrell from the band Alice in Chains, reminding you that the SeaTac Airport is a non-smoking facility. Bummer, dude. We actually play that, and it's such an illustration of how far we have come in embracing this music culture. And in 2009, the Wall Street Journal did a study that cited Seattle as the #1 place young people move to when they leave college. When asked why, the music scene was one of the top answers. Not only was music impacting the culture, it was impacting the economy. This is a tremendous story, and I wish I could end this presentation here. It would be a happy ending. But unfortunately, like any good story, the saga continues. Because once again, clubs are being shut down. But this time, it's not parents, it's not politicians, it's not police. It's development, it's growth, it's prosperity, it's us. We're the ones causing clubs to be shut down. Do you know the movie Up, where you have the little tiny house surrounded by the towering skyscrapers? That's what clubs are going through in Seattle and many other cities right now. For context, since that 2009 Wall Street Journal story, Seattle has been the fastest growing city in America every single year. We have more development cranes recently than in New York, than in Chicago, than in San Francisco, combined. It's enormous pressure, and it's causing unfortunate change. Some of these clubs have already been closed for development. Others are scheduled to be closed for development. And others have a big bright red target on their one-story building. They're like an endangered species. And if we lose these clubs, this is bad. Because while there are many things that make for a healthy music ecosystem, I believe live music is the most important. It's the place where artists hone their craft. It's where they meet other artists and develop collaboration and sound. It's where audiences get developed. You lose live music venues, you lose music. So I ask, who is Seattle's next Kevin Bacon? Who's going to step up this time to reverse the trend? I think it's you. I think you're the ones who are going to help save music this time and continue the story, to make sure that Seattle's music story isn't a piece of history, but the future. And to help you and inspire you and to help you find your inner Kevin Bacon, I want to give you 5 things that you can do starting tomorrow to make a difference. Make music part of urban planning. Don't let anything get developed without talking about what music's going to be, how it's going to be involved and included. For instance, right now in Seattle's waterfront is one of the biggest urban transformation projects in generations. How is music going to be a part of that? Big venues, buskers on the street, and everything in between. Don't let anyone get elected in Seattle without talking about not only what they're going to do to support music, but grow music. Make it part of the conversation and the debate. Save our venues. Across from the Pike Place Market right now is the Showbox Theater, a jewel of a live music venue in Seattle. It's also scheduled to be shut down and developed. There's a resistance to that. Learn about that resistance. Understand the thousands of bands that have performed there and why it makes a difference in our community, and help save the Showbox and any other venue that's threatened. Demand music education. There is a reason why most private schools across the country have robust music programs. Music makes better people have more success in life. It's a crime that we don't have music education in all of Seattle's public schools. Change that. And lastly, the single most important thing you can do, but also the easiest thing you can do, and have fun, is to go see live music. Before today's program, I went on a local music calendar and found that there are 122 music performances playing tonight in Seattle. Go out there and see stuff. Make it a goal to see at least one live music show a month. I promise you'll have fun, and you'll be making a huge impact on making it for a healthy Seattle music scene. Now, I hope I'm not coming across as some old-timer who says, back in my day. That's not my point at all. Just the opposite. I think music right now is better than ever. It's rich, it blends all kinds of different styles, it's diverse, and there's so much of it. I love music right now. But the reason music is good right now is because there was an infrastructure, an ecosystem, and places for people to play. If we lose that, it's gone. So I ask, are you ready to dance?